Hi, Dean.
Hello.
So we're here in London. What's it like being vegan in London?
Being vegan in London is pretty easy, I think. There's loads of amazing restaurants all around London. I mean, especially in central London, there's tons of them. But I find it, to eat out, there's loads of really great places to go that are either vegetarian with vegan options or fully vegan. I enjoy taking my friends that are not vegan to some of these restaurants because they're surprised at how well you can eat and how much flavour the food has and how reasonable it can be as well. So I think being a vegan in London, is pretty easy. There's a lot of meet-up groups as well and social groups for vegans, and so that's been a nice thing to kind of start to discover recently. And I think it's a great city to be a vegan, definitely.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to have like social groups and meetups?
I think it's
around
helpful.
vegans?
I think it's helpful to have social groups and meetups just so that you've got a bit of extra support, people that understand you. You're not going to just change all your friends just because you could become a vegan, but it's nice to maybe make a few new friends that are in that lifestyle and will be able to give you tips and, will want to go out to eat with you to these places and not kind of need loads of persuasion like some of my non-vegan friends need. Just to kind of cook for each other, share recipes, things like that. I think it's really nice to have people that are also vegan just so that you don't feel alone, because it can feel a bit lonely and isolating sometimes, especially when you go to restaurants where there's only like a salad as your option, or when you're amongst people that really love meat, because meat lovers are very dedicated about that, and so you can often feel like a bit of a freak for not wanting to eat meat. So I just find having a couple of vegan friends will help you realize that you're not a freak.
Yeah. So you mentioned like feeling maybe sometimes you feel like a freak, and I think the world sometimes views vegans as freaks. So what do you think about the stereotype of being a vegan?
I think a lot of people think being a vegan is just for white people. I found that specifically when I went to South Africa to visit. I was doing a poetry kind of trip out there and doing lots of performances. But everyone I met in Cape Town and Johannesburg was like, so you're a vegan? But black people eat meat. That's part of who we are. And I was like, is it? Why is it? And I found that really intriguing for people to kind of say that to me. Here in London as well, I'm used to, in the past eating a lot of meat, and so people are shocked that I'm now a vegan, and they're like, but don't you miss your jerk chicken? Don't you miss your kebabs and all of that? Because my family's from Cyprus and Jamaica, and so meat is very important to the kind of traditional dishes that they eat. So with family even, it's been a bit of a funny one for them to get their head around. Why am I doing this, and don't I miss and why am I making such a big sacrifice? And to me it doesn't feel like a sacrifice, it feels like just the right thing for me to be doing. And but the stereotypes are definitely there, like I said, people think it's just white people that are vegans and black people don't do it or shouldn't be doing it. But I'm used to stereotypes. I've grown up with the stereotypes of what it is to be black or a black man, and I've grown up with the stereotypes of what it is to be gay or a gay man. So I've been used to challenging stereotypes all my life. So this one's relatively small with regards to the other things I've kind of gone through so far.
How do you think we can challenge the stereotypes?
I think just by being really open about what what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think not being righteous about it. I think we just got to say, this is what I'm doing. These are the health benefits. These are the benefits to society. These are maybe the reasons why I don't do it. This is the cruelty. But I think the cruelty element, the people's guilt takes over and they shut down. When you talk about animal cruelty, they suddenly feel like you're attacking them. So if you can also, focus on maybe the health benefits, I think that's something that appeals to a lot of people at the moment, because people are a lot more health conscious. So I think that's one way in for the people that wouldn't necessarily want to hear about animal cruelty, but would want to, think about being more healthy themselves. So that's something I've been doing. But also, just when you have a great meal, that's vegan, share it, share a picture of it on Instagram, food porn and all of that. People take loads of pictures of their food anyway, so if you share your awesome vegan meal, I think people, like seeing something different and like knowing that that's vegan but it looks really appetizing or that kind of thing. I've always found so far has got a good response. I get people message me on my Instagram and say, actually, you're making me consider this. Maybe I'll do one day a week, maybe I'll do, do you know what I mean? Like people think about it and consider it and ask me again, oh, what was that restaurant you went to? I might want to try that. So I think just being open about it. If you've got any kind of platform, whether it's just your Facebook or your Twitter or just talking to friends and colleagues, I'd just let them know. Or if you work in a workplace, bring in a vegan dish one day, and share it with people and kind of just spread the word by being open and sharing rather than kind of criticizing people or making them feel guilty.
So you're a writer?
I am a writer, I'm a poet. I've also written some plays and a musical and working on some short stories and but mostly poetry is what I write and almost how I think as well.
So how did you get into that?
I got into writing poetry through it's like a journal, like a diary. Like a lot of the things I wasn't ready to talk to people about would be the things I would write poetry about. So coming to terms with my sexuality, writing about growing up and being a man and what it meant to be a man and not having my dad around. I wrote a lot about that. Being black or being mixed race, kind of writing about what it meant to be black and what it meant to be mixed race, all those kind of things, and a lot of like teenage angst, the regular stuff, and then love poems, for girls and guys at the time, I wasn't sure, and so all of that, I developed, an understanding of myself through writing it down in poetry, and eventually, there were a few pieces that actually felt like they were more public, they wanted to be shared, not just for my private, consideration and self-reflection, but actually for to share with other people how I felt and the conclusions I'd made about myself. So I started doing spoken word poetry. I found the Poetry Cafe in Covent Garden first and did a reading there, and then from there discovered lots of other amazing poetry nights around London, and got into spoken word. Had a piece on Radio 4 when I was 18, and that happened because someone producer from the radio saw me at one of these poetry open mics and asked if I'd want to be on a Radio 4 series, and then I saw that this was actually something that people wanted to hear, and I was just like, okay, let me keep doing this, and went to university in Brighton and got involved in poetry groups there, and we had a regular poetry night, and by the time I'd finished university 3 years later, I was ready to come back to London and really like call myself a poet. So that's what I've done, and I'm here and just really embraced it, and it's embraced me. Spoken word and poetry has been like the way I've kind of got my voice out there, the way I've made a lot of my friends, the way I've made money, and made a life for myself in a city that so much going on here. So I think it's nice when you belong to a group, like, so I'm with the poets, if you know what I mean, like, so it helps me navigate London and also navigate the world, really. Like when I travel, it's usually with poetry, so it's become a way for me to kind of like work my way through this crazy world that we live in.
Like getting into poetry and like writing, it's kind of like a hard world to get into, I think. So what motivated you to like keep going and striving for success?
I mean, it's quite simple. My motivation really just came from people clapping after I got off stage, like the applause or the comments that people would make about how my words reflected a situation they'd been through or connected with them or helped them in some way. So either that applause from an audience or the one-to-one conversations you'd had with individual audience members after performance, that's really what made me realize this is something worth doing. And then when opportunities came to be on radio, TV, stuff like that, that gave me extra validation. And I think for many years, that's what propelled me. Now I'm in a more kind of personal place of it again, where I'm writing for me and writing for a sense of, improving myself, getting better as a writer, becoming a better person. And so it's more, inward looking again. But for a good few years, it was very much about, putting on a good show and, reaching people. And now I'm kind of just getting back in touch with, how it started really. The core was, self-reflection.
Do you think people should reflect more in themselves? Do we have enough time to reflect?
I think people need to find a way to reflect more, whether it's through writing or meditation or, silence, just spending some time by themselves, going to the countryside, going to the beach. I just think people need a bit more time out, especially if you live in a big city. I think you either need to find a space within that where you can be quiet and reflective, or get out of it. I love to get out of London, even if it's just to go back to Brighton where I studied and sit by the beach for a while. I just find it's really necessary, even just to go to the park and just be around some nature. And for me, I just think some quiet is really important when you're living in a big city or have a busy life. But for me, poetry is a way I reflect, but also just quiet time is a good way to reflect as well. I actually went on a silent meditation retreat at the beginning of this year, and it was really, tough but wonderful. It was 10 days silent meditation where you couldn't take books, or you couldn't write or take instruments or any music. You couldn't talk to anyone, and the food was all vegan and there was no alcohol. So that might sound like hell to some people, but to me it was exactly what I needed, and just getting out of the rat race and just being by myself, but still surrounded by others, but others that also wanted to find some peace, also wanted to kind of have some time for self-reflection. So we were there together. There was definitely a feeling of community, but it was also just an inward kind of sense of, being with yourself. And that was really nice. So I'd recommend, going on a retreat or trying meditation to anyone that wants to just find some time for themselves.
Yeah. Do you think veganism should be promoted in the media a lot more?
It's difficult I think it should be. If I'm thinking about realistically, why would it be? That's kind of the interesting question, where would the funds come from to promote veganism? Because, the businesses involved in, meat, dairy, all of that kind of stuff, they're big business and they have a lot of sway and a lot of money, and so I can understand why they are promoting themselves. So veganism isn't a business, so it's just about how does one promote it. It's almost withdrawing from a lot of these negative businesses, so it's just about what is the voice for that kind of for that lifestyle. I'm sure there are associations and stuff like that, but I haven't tapped into any of that yet, so I don't really know what the kind of the bodies would be that would get behind something like that. But I definitely think it would be great if there was more promotion of veganism, maybe just from individuals that are vegan, using their platforms, if they're involved in the media in any way, to just kind of share. I think it'd be great to have a vegan chef on TV. We love TV chefs, so I think a vegan one, there'd be space for one, and I think that would be really cool, just to show people you can have fun, tasty vegan food. If they get the right personality to front something like that, I think that would be really cool. So that's one idea that I think that would be worth pursuing for anyone that knows how to do that. Get a vegan chef on TV. There are obviously quite a few vegan cookbooks out there, but you're only looking for that if you're looking for that. But I think anyone who's in the public eye that is vegan should just say it every now and again. You don't have to go on about it all the time, but just remind people, because then, if they look up to you for whatever reason it is, if you just let them know, by the way, I'm vegan, people might consider that. So that's something worth pursuing. But there's a lot of big business out there that it's not in their interest to let veganism be promoted. So that's worth us bearing in mind, and that, you know, that kind of feeds into a lot of what's promoted to us. You know, there's a lot promoted to us that isn't very good for us or the planet, and we, you know, because of money, we are, you know, forced fed, so to speak, all of that rubbish, really. So we need to kind of be a bit more selective about the media that we're consuming as well.
So you mentioned that you had a book.
Yeah.
So what is your book about?
So I wrote a book, 2013 it came out, and it's a collection of poetry that is very much, you know, autobiographical. So kind of my life and journeys and kind of discoveries I've made about myself growing up, really. And yeah, it's called I'm Nobody's Nigger, and it kind of challenges a lot of stereotypes, I think, about race, but also sexuality and young people. But it's also very personal and reflective about, you know, different relationships in my life, with family, with friends, with lovers, and with myself. And yeah, I found it seems to really relate to people because I'm being really honest, and I think they can tap into that honesty and find some of their own truths in there. So it's been really good to have a collection of poems out there and in a book, and so it will be in bookshops and libraries and available online, and it means it can reach further than I could physically. So it's nice that my book's out there in the world and people are kind of getting it and enjoying it and giving me feedback. And the great thing about the internet is that I can spread the word about my work, but also I can receive, you know, feedback about my work, and that's been really, really exciting to connect to other writers and readers across the world, you know, that enjoy poetry and my poetry. So it's really nice. Yeah.
Did you get a good response from the book?
Got a really good response, lots of really good reviews, lots of opportunities to go and talk about it on radio and TV, and to travel, so, you know, to South Africa, to America, to the Caribbean, to various places around Europe and the UK. So it's been really good to get out there with a book, with you know, something to physically, you know, hand over to people and let them keep, and it's like I'm giving them a piece of me, but a piece that I'm happy to give, you know, because, you know, that's the great thing about, you know, you make a book and it can be reproduced infinitely, and yeah, those words, you know, live on past me, I hope, which will be really interesting in years to come. But it's been really nice to kind of have the work. I know it's been studied in schools, in universities and colleges, and that's been really cool for me to know that that's happening, and teachers and professors let me know that they've put my book on their course syllabus and stuff like that. So that's been really, like, beyond what I imagined it would do. You know, I think I thought, you know, I'd have a book and I'd make a bit of money at shows from selling it, but actually it's allowed me to travel, it's allowed me, to reach people through other people. You know, they recommend your work to others, and then, you know, that's a new, you know, chain reaction that can get started, and they can recommend it to someone else. And yeah, that's been really exciting to know that that's how it works. You know, if you've got something good to share, people will then share it on your behalf. It's been amazing.
Can we see the book?
See the book. So this is my book. I worked with a wonderful designer called Ben Connors, who made my cover, and our next collection is going to be an illustrated poetry book, so all the poems he's illustrating at the moment for the next book, so look out for that. Title's not decided yet, but it's going to look awesome.
Okay, so why did you become vegan?
I became a vegan for, I guess, 2 or 3 reasons. Reason number 1 was cruelty to animals, and I didn't think it was fair that animals would die or suffer in any way for me, you know. And so that was just a very, I guess, obvious reason, but one that I'd avoided thinking about for many, many years. You know, I'm aware, you know, why people are vegetarian and vegan, you know, before now, but I kind of just put it out my mind, and yeah, and I didn't really think about the extent of the cruelty involved. And so I think I watched quite a few documentaries on Netflix about it, you know, and it really helped confirm, you know, that this was not something I wanted to be putting my money towards. And then health reasons, I just, you know, decided, one, I didn't need to eat meat at all, but I just thought actually, you know, the health implications of eating that much meat can't be good for you anyway. So yeah, I thought health was another reason that kind of made me think about it, and definitely kept me doing it, because people tell me, you know, I look better and I feel better and more healthy, and like I have more energy and just a bit more aware of my body, and in turn, like, my mind, if that makes sense. You know, I just feel like I feel more in tune with myself. And yeah, the kind of third reason was just that a bit of discipline. I felt like my life has been very free, very carefree, which is fine, but I just thought a bit of discipline for me would be good, and not eating certain things requires quite a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
And so along with being vegan, I decided to stop drinking and not do any drugs, and so that's been really good for me as well, to kind of be almost on a long-term cleanse. So I feel a lot more in tune with myself, I guess, because I'm not having those things that I'm used to, you know, relying on. Even with food, you know, comfort eating when you felt down, and eating certain foods, and drinking when you needed either a pick-me-up or a you know, the same with drugs, you know, but just not doing any of that means I'm just more in tune with what I'm really feeling and what I really need. So it's less about kind of carefree desires and more about actual need. And I just feel a bit more grounded now. Not like relying on too many things outside of myself to kind of balance me out or give me comfort. I can find comfort in other ways, and just knowing that I'm looking after myself, I find a great comfort in that.
Do you have any tips for people that want to go vegan?
If you want to go vegan, I think you should go to some really good restaurants, some vegan restaurants. There's lots around there, so just like Google vegan restaurant in your area, and I'm sure you'll find one. Because I think if you see how good the food can be, then it will give you inspiration to cook it at home. Get a good vegan cookbook, be useful, make some vegan friends, go to vegan meetups and meet other people and see that they're normal people that just, you know, have made this life choice. And I think having a few people around you to support this choice that you're making will be very beneficial. Or try and do it with someone you already know. If you know someone that's considering it, do it together. You don't have to start off doing it completely. You could do a day a week, you could do a couple days a week, or you could challenge yourself to do 30 days all out, and just as that challenge, let people know and let them like cheer you on. And I'm sure when you get to the end of the month, you'll probably be like, actually, I can do this, it's not that hard. So yeah, I just think friends, restaurants, meetups, and the internet's great for anything that you're unsure about. I'm sure you can find it online, any more advice that you need.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Dean.
No worries, thank you.